You sit in your doctor's office, feeling a sense of relief wash over you as they slide that crisp sheet of paper across the desk. Your cholesterol is within the reference range. Your triglycerides are acceptable, and your blood sugar is perfectly normal. You walk out of that clinic feeling like you've been given a clean bill of health, maybe even treating yourself to a little extra indulgence on the way home, because you feel protected by those numbers. But what if I told you that those very numbers, the ones that make you feel safe, are often hiding the biggest threat to your longevity? What if I told you that you could have a perfectly normal blood panel and still be walking around with a ticking time bomb inside your arteries? My name is Dr. Harrison Blake, and for 15 years, I have walked alongside thousands of patients as they navigate the confusing world of cardiovascular health, helping them turn their biological markers into a roadmap for true vitality. If you want to understand how to truly protect your heart beyond the basic charts, take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And keep watching until the very end, because today we are going to expose the silent risk that most standard blood tests completely ignore. To understand why your blood test might be lying to you, we have to talk about what those tests actually measure. When your doctor orders a standard lipid panel, they are looking at the total concentration of fats in your blood. Think of it like looking at a busy highway from a satellite view. You might see a certain number of cars on the road, which represents your total cholesterol, and you might see which cars are moving toward the destination, the bad cholesterol, and which are moving away, the good cholesterol. But from that high altitude, you cannot see if the cars on the road are full-size, dangerous SUVs, or if they are tiny, harmless motorcycles. You see, the standard cholesterol test counts the total volume of particles, but it does not account for the size or the density of those particles. This is the first major blind spot in modern diagnostics. If you have a high volume of small, dense particles, they act like grit or jagged sand in your blood vessels, causing inflammation and plaque. Even if your total cholesterol number looks perfectly fine on paper. I have spent 15 years in clinical practice, and I have seen countless individuals who follow the standard advice, eat their oatmeal, take their mild supplements, and keep their total cholesterol low, only to end up with arterial issues later in life. This happens because we are focused on the wrong target. We focus on the total mass of the fat, but we ignore the architecture of the particles themselves. Let us imagine your arteries are like a polished glass pipe. If you have large, fluffy, buoyant cholesterol particles, they float through that pipe like soft cotton balls. They do not cause significant trouble. But if you have small, dense particles, they act like grit or jagged sand. They get stuck in the microscopic nooks and crannies of your arterial wall. Once they get stuck, your immune system reacts to them, causing inflammation and creating what we call plaque. This is a silent process. You do not feel it. You do not get a warning headache or a signal from your body. It is a slow, quiet buildup that happens year after year, all while you're looking at your blood test and thinking you're doing just fine. When we discuss this, I often hear people ask why their doctor did not mention this. The truth is that standard medicine relies on cost-effective, high-volume testing. The standard lipid panel is cheap and fast, and for the vast majority of cases, it is enough to catch major systemic issues. However, if you are over 40, if you feel tired, if you're struggling with low energy, or if you have a family history of heart concerns, the standard test is simply not enough. You need to know your particle count and your particle size. This is often called an advanced lipid profile or an NMR lipoprofile. When we see the actual count of these small, dense particles, we can finally tell if your body is metabolically healthy or if it is secretly under siege. If you have ever felt confused by your own blood work or wondered why you feel sluggish despite having normal test results, I want you to drop a comment below and tell me what your biggest frustration is with your current medical checkups. I read every comment, and I want to know about your specific experiences so we can keep making this information as practical and useful as possible for you. Now, why does this happen to some people and not others? It usually comes down to insulin resistance. Think of insulin as the gatekeeper of your cells. When you eat, your body releases insulin to help move glucose out of blood and into your cells for energy. But if you've been sedentary or if your diet is high in processed carbohydrates and sugars, those cells start to ignore the knock on the door. They become insulin resistant. When that happens, your liver starts to behave strangely. It begins to produce these small, dense, dangerous cholesterol particles instead of the large, fluffy, buoyant ones. This is the most crucial connection I want you to understand today. Your cholesterol is often a symptom, not the root cause. The root cause is usually metabolic dysfunction, specifically the way your body handles sugar and insulin. This is why simply taking a medication to lower your total cholesterol might be a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. If you lower the total count without fixing the insulin resistance, you're still left with a system that creates small, dense, inflammatory particles. You are effectively cleaning up the mess without fixing the machine that makes it. This is not to say that medication has no place. It absolutely does for many people. But medicine should never be a substitute for lifestyle changes that address the core metabolic issue. When we shift our focus from just looking at the cholesterol number to looking at the metabolic environment of the patient, everything changes. We start to talk about movement, about the timing of our meals, and about the quality of the fats we consume. Let us break this down into actionable steps. First, you need to understand that your body creates these small particles primarily in response to high blood sugar spikes. If you're eating high glycemic foods, things like white bread, sugary snacks, or even excessive fruit juices, throughout the day, you are constantly giving your liver a signal to produce those jagged, dense particles. The first step to fixing this is stabilizing your glucose. You do not need to go on an extreme diet, but you do need to be conscious of the glycemic load of your meals. Focus on fiber, healthy fats, and high-quality protein. When you pair your carbohydrates with these, you slow down the absorption of sugar, which prevents that massive insulin spike that directs your liver to produce the bad cholesterol. Second, consider the importance of movement. This is not just about burning calories. When your muscles are active, they become more sensitive to insulin. They start inviting glucose more efficiently, which means your pancreas does not have to work as hard and your insulin levels stay lower. Even a quick 10-minute walk after your largest meal of the day can significantly lower your glucose post-meal and help your liver produce healthier, larger, and more buoyant cholesterol particles. It is such a simple, free, and effective intervention that it is almost shocking we do not hear about it more often. Third, look at your stress levels. Many people do not realize that chronic stress is an inflammatory state. When you are constantly stressed, your body is bathed in cortisol. Cortisol is a mobilizer of energy. It tells your liver to dump more sugar into your bloodstream to help you fight or flee. Even if you are not eating sugar, your body is making its own. This leads to the same outcome: higher insulin, and eventually the production of those small, dense particles we need to avoid. Managing stress through deep breathing, better sleep, or even just setting better boundaries is not just mental health suggestion. It is a cardiovascular necessity. I have spent 15 years seeing how these small, consistent changes transform health. I have seen patients who were on multiple medications for years finally get to a point where they can reduce their dependence on them simply because they stopped looking at the blood test as the end-all be-all and started looking at their metabolic foundation. The goal is not just to have a pretty piece of paper from a lab. The goal is to have a body that operates with energy, clarity, and resilience. Longevity is not about avoiding death. It is about extending your health span so that you can enjoy your life, your family, and your hobbies without the constant fear that something is happening beneath the surface. As we wrap up, I want you to reflect on your current habits. Are you relying on a single number to tell you if you are healthy, or are you looking at the whole picture? Are you fueling your body with foods that spike your sugar, or are you choosing foods that build stable energy? Are you moving your body, or are you waiting for a pill to fix your metabolic issues? These are the questions that define your future. It is never too late to start making better choices. Your body is incredibly adaptive, and it wants to heal. It just needs you to provide the right environment for that to happen. If this information has helped you see your health in a new light, I encourage you to take that step today. Share this video with a friend who might also be relying on a standard checkup to feel safe. We are building a community here of people who want to understand the science behind their health, and your engagement helps us reach even more people who might be sitting in that same office right now, feeling like they have a clean bill of health when they could be doing so much more for their long-term vitality. Remember that the journey to longevity is not paved with quick fixes, but with the daily, conscious decisions that respect the complexity of your biology. You have the power to change your trajectory. You do not need to be a scientist to understand these basics, and you do not need to overhaul your life overnight. Start with one meal, one walk, one night of better sleep. Notice how your energy levels change. Notice how your mind feels clearer. And most importantly, when you go back for your next checkup, do not be afraid to ask your doctor for more context. Ask about your particle size. Ask about your insulin resistance. Because the more you know, the more control you have over your own life. Thank you for spending this time with me today. My goal is to ensure that 15 years from now, you're looking back at the choices you made today as the beginning of your best, most vibrant years. Keep listening to your body. Keep asking the hard questions. And keep striving for that depth of health that goes far beyond the surface numbers. Make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss our next deep dive into the hidden factors of your longevity. And I will see you in the next video. Stay healthy, stay curious, and take care of your heart.